Hello and welcome back for Chapter 3, Exponents and Roots. We are discussing Lesson 1, which is dealing with integer exponents. And it's always important to know what we're talking about. So whenever we see the word integer, that is talking about integers. New pen. Come on now. Okay. Integers. Those are positive and negative whole numbers, right? Whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So an integer could be -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. But things that would not be integers, something that would not be an integer would be something like a decimal, 3.14. That would not be an integer, or a fraction would not be an integer. They need to be positive and negative whole numbers. That's what integers are. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this table here, and we're going to look for a pattern in the table to extend what you know about exponents. So we had integer exponents. Exponents, let's talk about that real quick. So if we have something like, let me use a different color. Let's say we use exponents. So something like 3 squared. Okay? 3 squared, this 2, that's what's called an exponent. And this is the base. All right? So we have the base, which is 3, and the exponent, which is 2. And so this just means 3 is multiplied by itself twice. Okay? So let's try this one. How about 4 to the 6? Okay, let's look at that one. Well, this is the base, 4 is the base, and 6 is the exponent. All right? So what this means is that 4 is multiplied by itself 6 times. So that 4 to the 6th power is the same thing as 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, which ends up being a really big number. We know what 3 times 3 is, right? That's just equal to 9. So 3 squared is pretty easy. 3 squared equals 3 times 3, which is the same thing as 9. So that's what an exponent is. It's this itty-bitty number up there. Okay, so we're going to look for a pattern in the table to extend what you know about exponents into including negative exponents. Ooh, this is so fun. We're going to be talking about negative exponents. All right, cool. So let's talk about 10 squared. Well, we know 10 squared is the same thing as 10 times 10, right? And 10 times 10 is 100. Okay. Now, when we go from 10 squared to 10 to the first power, what we're doing is we are dividing by 10. Okay? So that's how you get from 10 squared to 10 to the first. So, like, think about that. If we have... right? We know that 10 squared is the same thing as 10 times 10, right? And then we divide that by 10. So we can write divide by 10 like that, or we can write it like this. And what happens? 10 divided by 10 is 1, right? Those cancel out. And then what you're left with is just 10. So 10 to the first power is just 10. Okay, it's just 10 multiplied just one time by itself, which is just 10. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to divide this by 10. And so we're here, right? We're dividing by 10. So that means we have 10 divided by 10. And 10 divided by 10 is just 1. And that's what this is. 10 to the 0th power is 1. It's the same thing as 1. All right? And 1 is just the same thing as 1. So that's really, really super important to remember. Okay? Anything to the 0th power is equal to 1. Okay? So just remember that a little bit. So let's say we had just a little side note here. Let me get a good color. How about green? If you had, okay, just a side note. If you had something like 4 to the 0 power, guess what the answer is? It's 1. Let's say you had something like 12 to the 0th power. The answer is 1, okay? So anything to the 0 power is 1. How about a variable? Ooh, let's get fancy. Let's say x to the 0 power. Guess what it is? Drum roll! It's equal to 1. So anything to the 0 power is always equal to 1, okay? All right, so now we're back to what we're doing. We were dividing by 10 to each of these and figuring out what the pattern is. So here we had 1, right? And we're going to divide that by 10. Okay, and when we have 1 divided by 10, see, that's what 10 to the negative 1 power. It's 1/10. And if we were going to change that into a decimal, 1/10 is the same thing as 1/10 as a decimal. This is a fraction. This is, remember, the tenths place, 1/10. So they mean the same thing, fraction, decimal. Okay, so now what are we going to do? We're going to take this 1/10 and divide that by 10, and then that's going to give us this 10 to the negative 2, and we're getting into these wonderful negative exponents. So if we start with 1/10, and then we divide another 10, which means it would be on the bottom, right? Because this means divided by 10. So here's our 1/10, and then we divide it by 10. What we end up with is 1/10 times 10, and that is the same thing as 1/100th, which, as in the form of a decimal, is 0. This is the tenths place, and there's this is the hundredths place, so 1/100th. All right, and we're going to keep going. So we're going to take this 1/100th here. Or no, we'll take this right here. And we're going to divide it by 10 again. So we have this. This is our 10 to the negative 2 power. And we're going to divide it by, this means divide it by 10. So we end up with this, which is 1 to the 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000th, 1,000th, which in the form of a decimal is 0.001, the 10th, 100th, thousandths place. So isn't this interesting? Do you guys see a pattern? Do you see what happens here? It seems that here, right, they were on the top, 10 squared, but as we kept dividing by 10 and dividing by 10, what happens when it got here to the negative exponent, that 10 went to the bottom. And then here there was 2 10s in the bottom, and then here there was 3 10s in the bottom. Do you guys see that pattern? So let's go ahead and look here. So using that pattern, when we get 10 to the negative 4th, right, what do you think is going to happen? Well, they're probably going to have 4 10s in the bottom, right? Because it's a negative, and it seems like when there's negative, you put the 10s in the bottom. So this would be the same thing as 1/10 times 10 times 10 times 10, right? Which is the same thing as 1 over, then you just write 1 and count up the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1/10,000th. Okay, which in the form of a decimal would be 0. Okay, this is the tens, hundreds, thousandth, 1/10,000th would be right there. That would be our answer. This is in decimal form. This is in fractional form. Okay. What about 10 to the negative 5? What do you guys think? Well, if we use that pattern, right, it should just be 1 over, it would be 10 5s on the bottom, right? That's a lot of 10, I mean, not 10 5s. It would be 10 multiplied by itself 5 times on the bottom of the fraction. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would equal 1 over, what's this, 1, and how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, 1/100,000th, 100,000th. Okay, so let's write that in the form of a decimal. So we have 0 point, this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000, 100,000ths would be right here, and there's one of them. There's 1/100,000th. That is a lot to say. And so there's our answer in the form of a decimal. Okay, now it is your turn, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to try C and D. And here is my friend. Where's my friend? My friend, my friend, my friend. Where are you? Here's my friend, the pause dragon, coming in, reminding you that you need to pause your device. Go ahead and work this problem out. When you get done, press play and we'll talk about it together. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, let's see how you did. So, right, the pattern was whenever we see this little -6 here, it's going to be 1/10 multiplied by itself 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. And then I always like to just, since it's only ones here, you write the 1 and then you just count up the number of zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, 1/1,000,000th. Okay, and let's write that as a decimal. So it'd be 0. This would be the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000th, 100,000th, and this would be the millionth. So there's 1/1,000,000th. And that's how we'd write that. So if you got that one right, great job. All right, let's go ahead and see how you did on D. So we have that negative exponent, right? So that would be the same thing as 1/10 multiplied by itself on the bottom 10 times. No, 7 times. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. And that would be the same thing as 1/, how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 and 7 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, 10,000,000th. Okay. So let's do the decimal. 0, this would be the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, and it's 1/10,000,000th. That is a very, very small number. And there you go. There's our answer. If you did that right, yokonekimashita, you did a great job, and I'll see you next time. See you next time. Good job.